and being fundamentally different to the humans of the time, I think it will be very scary. And also, I don't know. There's probably some other philosophical things about it. I actually went this morning to put some flowers on a grave of a young lady called Annalise. Now, I wrote, you may or may not remember one of my songs
I
called
know
Annalise.
Annalise, yes.
Yeah, she was a very dear friend,
Yeah.
and sadly, it's a sad story, and I don't want to get too sad on this, obviously, but
Yeah.
we went there and we said that in the graveyard in the cemetery there was a real sense of peace and calm, and the sense of it was sobering in a good way to actually feel. And you read a lot of the gravestones and so on.
Yeah.
Some of it was sad, one little boy who was born asleep, as they put it, and yeah, it's sobering. But I think there was also that great sense of peace and calm, which I think probably everybody hopes that that's how it will be, whatever comes next, if anything comes next.
Yeah.
It will be peaceful and calming. I don't like the idea of being in some sort of midway point of being frozen. You
Right.
may call it a sense of being in purgatory or whatever, but I wouldn't like to think I would be kind of artificially maintained.
Right.
Um, there was a story in the paper the other day about a famous saint woman. I can't remember her name, but she's very well known. And her body has recently been, I don't know whether they've moved it
Yeah.
from a coffin or whatever, but she wasn't in any way preserved, but her body was completely preserved perfectly. And I forget when she was buried originally, it's 200 or 300 years ago. So they were saying this is some sort of miracle. So that was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
But it does happen. I know that can happen. I've seen the body of St. Bernadette's, who had the apparitions
Right.
in Lourdes in 1858. I think the first ones were, and great story. I went to Lourdes to look at it a few years ago, to look at the chapel and so on.
Yeah.
And she's actually, her body is actually in an open coffin in another place. I think it might be Nevers, but I can't quite remember where that was. But we went there as well, and
Right.
yeah, it is kind of, it makes you sit up. You're looking at her, perfect. Her body was perfectly preserved. I mean, they meant to preserve it with whatever materials they used, but
Yeah.
to see this woman who had these incredible apparitions of the Virgin Mary
Yeah.
in the south of France in the 19th century, it was quite incredible. So yeah, I mean, I've gone a bit of a tangent here, but I wouldn't want to mess with nature, with anything like that. And I think the only reason I could see for cryogenics being useful is if when they eventually travel to Mars, which may not be that far away, it could be 10 years or whatever,
Right.
I think they may have to go into a pod for 6 months, 7 months, the length of time it takes to go there.
Right.
And that's when they could possibly be frozen for that journey. So that could happen. But apart from that, no, I wouldn't want to be frozen. No.
No. Yeah. So, the point that you mentioned, actually, um, I don't quite agree with it. I don't think I don't think it's good enough reason for you not to want to be frozen. Um,
No.
and the point was that, you don't want to come back in 300 years time and not know anybody and not know the sort of technology that would be available. But you've said it on this show before, Trevor, that people can adapt to Trevor, that people can adapt to situations. Um, and so I think you would quite easily adapt.
Mm. Yeah, but if I was unfrozen, thawed out,
Right.
and I right in front of me there was someone with a jacket like that on, it would frighten me to death, wouldn't it? So all that frozen, if
Yeah.
I saw your jacket, it would. I think I want to be frozen again, basically. But I couldn't cope with it. So, but yeah, no, it's a serious point. No,
Yeah.
we are adaptable as a species. Of course, we
Yeah.
are. We've had to adapt over millions of years, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
So
don't
you
think that
won't.
makes any difference to
Yeah.
my fit. It's not just about adapting. It's it could be very lonely to come back as a human, unless there was a group of you,
Yeah.
a bunch of friends who came back together.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I'm not sure it would ever be technically possible anyway. But of course,
No.
we don't know what possibilities there will be in the future.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking you quite easily form new friends. You would.
We might do. But they might see you and say, "Hello, it's Fatty Bum Bum." They might do that, mightn't they?
No,
Should I move on to my name changes? Have we
yes.
finished with that one, or
Yes, go on. Yes, yes, please.
oh, I don't want to interrupt you if you had some
No,
more
no, no,
thoughts
no.
on
It's
them.
it's it's
No,
it's finished now. Yeah. Go on.
well,
That's
there's only a few of these anyway. They just struck me as quite interesting. I think I asked you one last night, didn't I? Who
yeah.
was it? Eileen Edwards, and then
Eileen
magically you
Edwards,
came
yeah.
back.
And I
Yeah,
came back
I
as
mean,
Shania
yeah,
Twain.
Shania Twain, and when you think Shania Twain sounds it's got impact, doesn't it? It's a great
Yeah.
name, but Eileen Edwards, no disrespect to Eileen's or whatever, but you can understand why some people do change their name.
Well, there was a song
Um,
about Eileen. Come on, Eileen. Da, 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 da.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I guess Eileen is famous. But
it's a
Eileen
famous name.
Edwards, yeah,
Yeah,
but Eileen Edwards, I'm not sure. But Eileen on his own, I think, is a famous name.
Eileen on its own is all right. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
quite an uncommon name now, isn't it?
it
But then
is.
you get someone like Snoop Dogg. His real name is Cordoza Calvin Broadus
Yeah.
Jr. And apparently his parents nicknamed him Snoopy because he looked like um, I don't know, it seems funny that he looked like, but the famous cartoon dog Snoopy,
All right.
and that's where he got his name from,
Right.
because the cartoon is a beagle dog. Whoopi Goldberg's a more interesting one, actually.
Yeah.
The name Whoopi Goldberg. But I'll tell you how that came about. She was born Karen Johnson. You
All
wouldn't think
right.
that, would you?
Yeah,
But
no.
here we go into the more technical side of it. Believe it or not, she had a tendency to break wind a lot, right? And her that's true. And her friends eventually started calling her like a whoopee cushion.
All right.
So eventually that name stuck. And I think her mother suggested the name Goldberg, obviously a
Right.
Jewish name, but her mother came up with that. But that's why Whoopi Goldberg has that name. Um, LL Cool J. Do you know what that stands for?
No.
LL Cool J.
Yeah, no.
Well, that stands for Ladies Love Cool James. He was born James Smith. Can you believe that? A very
My
cool
God.
name, LL Cool J, was
Yeah.
James or Jim Smith. And he had a buddy, and they went round singing, and they hoped that they would attract the girls
Yeah.
by saying, LL Cool J, ladies love Cool Jim or Cool James. So that's a different sort of one.
Yeah.
Sid Vicious. Have you heard of Sid Vicious?
No. Is it singer, songwriter?
Well, he was in the Sex Pistols. You heard of the Sex
Yes,
Pistols?
I have heard of the Sex
Yeah, I
Pistols.
mean, they were around a few years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, Sid Vicious, his life ended badly because he was very much a drug addict
All
with
right.
his girlfriend, an American girlfriend, I think called Nancy Spungen. And in fact, in an addled, drug missed